I accidentally overheard my girlfriend's phone call the day before proposing and discovered she was part of a $1 million romance scam ring. I, 28M, had everything planned perfectly. The ring was hidden in my sock drawer. Dinner reservations were made at the restaurant where we had our first date, and I'd even arranged for her favorite flowers to be delivered to our table. After 3 years together, I was ready to take the next step. But life has a funny way of pulling the rug out from under you when you least expect it. It happened 2 nights before the planned proposal. I came home early from work, wanting to double-check all the arrangements. She wasn't expecting me for another hour. She usually worked from home on Tuesdays. I heard her voice from our bedroom as I quietly opened the front door. She was on the phone, and something in her tone made me stop in my tracks. I know, she was saying, her voice barely above a whisper. But he can't find out. Not yet. Just give me time to figure this out. I stood frozen in our hallway, my heart suddenly pounding. 3 years of trust and love were screaming at me to walk away, to not eavesdrop on a private conversation. But something else, something primal, kept me rooted to the spot. The money's almost ready, she continued. I just need another week, maybe 2. Once he proposes. She paused, listening. Yes, I know he's going to. I found the receipt for the ring in his email. My blood ran cold. The ring. She knew about the ring. But that wasn't what made me feel sick. It was the way she said it, like it was part of some plan. Look, I've invested too much time in this to mess it up now. 3 years is a long time to. Another pause. No, of course I don't actually want to marry him. But once we're engaged, I can access the joint account he keeps talking about, and then, I must have made a noise, because she suddenly stopped talking. I heard movement in the bedroom. In a panic, I quietly opened and closed the front door again, this time loudly calling out, "Hey babe, I'm home early." The sound of drawers quickly closing came from our room. When she emerged, she was smiling that smile I'd fallen in love with years ago. But now, for the first time, I saw something else in it. Something calculated. "You're early," she said, coming to kiss me. I forced myself to return her embrace, fighting the urge to recoil. I was just about to start dinner. I watched her walk to the kitchen, my mind racing. 3 years. 3 years of dates, of meeting each other's families, of building a life together. 3 years of what I thought was love, but was apparently an elaborate long con. The joint account she mentioned, I'd been planning to set it up after the proposal, something I'd mentioned wanting to do once we were engaged. It would have had most of my savings in it. "How was work?" she called from the kitchen, sounding completely normal, like she hadn't just been discussing how to scam me out of my savings. "Fine," I managed to say, my voice surprisingly steady. "Just wanted to get home early to spend time with you." She smiled again, and I wondered how many other times that smile had hidden lies. As she started pulling out pots and pans, chattering about her day, I sat at our kitchen counter and did something I never thought I'd have to do. I started planning how to catch my girlfriend in whatever scam she was running. The ring suddenly felt like it was burning a hole in our apartment, even from its hiding place in my sock drawer. Thank God I hadn't proposed yet. Thank God I'd come home early today. But now I had a decision to make. Confront her immediately with what I'd heard, or play along and figure out exactly what she was planning. As I watched her cook dinner, acting like everything was normal, I made my choice. I needed to know more. I needed proof. And most importantly, I needed to know if there were others she'd done this to before me. "Hey," I said, forcing a smile. "Why don't we go out for dinner instead? That new place you've been wanting to try." She beamed at me, and I saw that calculated look again, hidden behind her enthusiasm. "Really? But I just started cooking." "My treat," I insisted, already pulling out my phone to make a reservation. "Consider it a surprise date night." As she went to change, I quickly texted my best friend, "Need your help. Something's wrong. Call me tomorrow morning with a work emergency." I had no idea what I was going to do next, but I knew one thing for certain. The woman I was about to have dinner with was a stranger wearing my girlfriend's face, and I was going to find out exactly who she really was. Update 1. Dinner was surreal. I sat across from her at this fancy restaurant, watching her smile and laugh, all while my mind was racing. She ordered the most expensive wine on the menu, something she'd never done before, and I found myself wondering if this was part of her pattern. Get the man comfortable, make him feel special, then slowly increase the expensive treats to normalize spending his money. My work emergency call came right on schedule the next morning. I made a show of being frustrated about having to go to the office on a Saturday, kissed her goodbye, and met my best friend at a coffee shop instead. When I told him what I'd overheard, he sat in silence for a full minute. Then he asked the question I'd been avoiding. "Are you sure you didn't misunderstand?" I wished I had. But as I laid awake most of the night, more things had started making sense. Like how she'd been so interested in my investment portfolio early in our relationship, or how she'd subtly pushed me toward higher-paying jobs, always under the guise of believing in my potential. "We need to find out more," my friend said finally. "Have you checked her phone?" I shook my head. "She guards it like a fortress. Always has." I used to think it was cute, how she was so protective of her privacy. He pulled out his laptop. "What's her full name again?" What we found over the next 2 hours made me physically sick. Under her real name, not the slightly different version she'd given me, there were 3 different court cases. All sealed. All in different states. all involving men who'd claimed financial fraud. Look at the dates, my friend pointed out. Each case was spaced almost exactly 4 years apart. Looks like she gets close to being caught, moves to a new state, changes her name slightly, and starts over. I remembered how we met, how she'd seemed so perfect, so interested in all the same things I was. She studied me, I realized. She probably looked me up online first, figured out my interests, then orchestrated our random meeting at that coffee shop. Update 2. I spent the rest of the day in a daze, gathering more evidence. My friend knew a guy in law enforcement who owed him a favor. By that evening, we had a clearer picture. She was part of a larger group that targeted successful young professionals. They'd run this scam at least a dozen times that we could trace. Get engaged, gain access to accounts, drain them dry, then disappear. Some of her previous victims had lost hundreds of thousands. One guy had to declare bankruptcy. Another had a breakdown so severe he lost his job. But I still needed concrete proof of her current scam. The phone call I'd overheard wouldn't hold up legally. We needed more. When I got home that night, she was waiting with dinner and news. I was thinking, she said, curling up next to me on the couch. Maybe we should look at houses soon. You know, for our future. My skin crawled, but I forced a smile. Actually, I've been thinking about our future too. Her eyes lit up, and I knew she thought I was about to propose. Instead, I said, maybe we should set up that joint account we talked about. You know, start building our life together. The calculated look flashed across her face for just a second before she covered it with enthusiasm. Really? You don't want to wait until we're engaged? Why wait? I kept my voice casual. We both know where this is heading, right? She kissed me, and it took everything I had not to pull away. You're right. Let's do it Monday. After she fell asleep that night, I called my friend. I need your help setting up a trap. Update 3. Monday morning, I went to the bank early and explained the situation to their fraud department. They were incredibly helpful, especially after I showed them what we'd found about her past cases. We set up a joint account, but with a twist. Any large transfers would require both our signatures, something I forgot to mention to her. I transferred a significant amount into it, making sure she saw the balance when we logged in together that evening. Look at that, I said, showing her the 6-figure balance. Our future fund. She was practically glowing. This is perfect, she said, hugging me. You're perfect. That night, she made a phone call from our balcony. Thanks to my friend's law enforcement contact, we were ready. The call was recorded legally. Perks of having the fraud department involved. It's all set up, she said to whoever was on the other end. The idiot actually did it early. We don't even need to wait for the engagement. A pause. No, it's better this way. Once he transfers his investment portfolio over next week, we can clean it all out at once. She went on to detail their whole plan, names, dates, account numbers, everything. She even mentioned her previous scams, giving us exactly what we needed. When she came back inside, I pretended to be asleep on the couch. She covered me with a blanket, like a caring girlfriend would. In that moment, I almost admired her commitment to the role. Almost. I love you, she whispered, probably for the benefit of keeping up appearances even when she thought I was asleep. I waited until she went to bed, then texted my friend. We got it all. Set up the final trap tomorrow. His response came quickly. Everything's ready. Just stick to the plan. As I lay there on the couch, listening to her soft breathing from our bedroom, I thought about all the other men who'd laid awake like this, probably wondering how they'd missed the signs. But unlike them, I had caught it in time. And unlike them, I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Tomorrow would change everything. I just had to play my role for one more day. Update 3. It's been a week since what was supposed to be my wedding day. The past 7 days have been a blur of returning gifts, canceling honeymoon reservations, and dealing with the aftermath of a canceled wedding. But something happened yesterday that I need to share. The day that should have been our wedding, I turned off my phone and spent it with my best man and a few close friends. We didn't talk about her or the wedding. We just played video games and ordered takeout, like we were in college again. It helped, being surrounded by people who didn't need me to explain or relive anything. But yesterday, I got a letter. It was from my ex-fiance's younger sister. She'd written it by hand, and what she revealed made me realize I'd only seen the tip of the iceberg. According to her sister, the affair with the coworker wasn't the first time. There had been another incident 2 years ago, with a different guy, which her sister had caught, but kept quiet about, because my ex had promised it was a one-time thing and swore she'd never do it again. Her sister had been carrying that guilt ever since, and seeing everything fall apart now had finally pushed her to tell the truth. Reading that letter felt like being punched in the gut all over again. 2 years ago, that was right after we got engaged. While I was planning our future, she was. I couldn't even finish the thought. I decided to meet with her sister at a coffee shop. She brought text messages, dating back 2 years, showing her confronting my ex about the first affair. My ex's responses were what hit me hardest. It's not a big deal. I was just having fun before settling down, and what he doesn't know won't hurt him. Those messages changed everything. The woman I'd been mourning, the relationship I'd been grieving, they never existed. I'd been in love with an illusion, a carefully crafted facade. The real person behind it was someone who could smile at me over breakfast while texting another man, who could plan our wedding while meeting someone else in hidden corners of bars. Update 4. Today, I finally went back to our house to pack up the rest of my things. I'd found a small apartment across town and needed to move out before she came to get her stuff. My best man and childhood friend helped, making the process faster and less painful than doing it alone. While packing, I found the journal she kept when we first started dating. I know I shouldn't have, but I read it. The early entries were full of love and excitement about our relationship. Then, gradually, the tone changed. She wrote about feeling trapped by my perfectness, about wanting excitement and drama. The last entry was from 6 months ago. Sometimes I wonder if I'm even capable of being faithful. Maybe I'm just broken. Reading those words, something shifted in me. The anger that had been burning inside started to fade, replaced by something closer to pity. She wasn't some evil mastermind who set out to destroy me. She was just someone too cowardly to face her own issues, too selfish to consider the damage she was doing to others. Her coworker's wife reached out to me again. They're getting divorced. Apparently, this wasn't his first affair either. She told me they both did us a favor by showing their true colors before we legally bound ourselves to them. We deserve better, she said. We deserve whole love, not fractured loyalties. Update 5. It's been 2 weeks now. My ex has tried to contact me several times, each message more desperate than the last. She's been telling people she's going to therapy, that she's working on herself. Maybe she is, but that's not my journey anymore. Yesterday, I ran into her mother at the grocery store. She started crying right there in the produce section. She said my ex was a mess, that she'd quit her job and was talking about moving to a different city for a fresh start. Part of me felt bad for her, but a bigger part felt nothing. It was like watching the finale of a TV show I used to love but had grown out of. The wedding venue called. Someone had canceled their date in October, and they offered to transfer our deposit to that date if we wanted to try again. The manager was embarrassed when I explained we weren't postponing, we were separating. She ended up refunding half the deposit, against policy, she said. But sometimes life needs a little kindness. I used that money to book a solo trip to the mountains next month. Not the honeymoon we'd planned, but maybe something better, a chance to reconnect with myself, to figure out who I am outside of this relationship that consumed 4 years of my life. Final update. Tonight, I met up with my childhood friend, the one who made that life-changing phone call. Over beers, he confessed he'd almost backed out of telling me several times. But then I thought about my own wedding day, he said, and how I'd want someone to tell me the truth, no matter how much it hurt. As we talked, I realized something important. Yes, my relationship ended in the worst possible way. Yes, I'm still dealing with trust issues and probably will be for a while. But I'm also free. Free from lies, free from deception, free from loving someone who wasn't capable of loving me the same way. To everyone who's messaged asking if I regret calling off the wedding, no, not for a second. The pain of ending things is nothing compared to the pain of living a lie. Would it have been easier to ignore the truth and go through with the wedding? Maybe. But I've learned that sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that save us. I don't know what the future holds. Right now, I'm focusing on small victories, getting through each day, setting up my new apartment, rediscovering old hobbies I'd let slide. I'm learning that it's okay to not be okay sometimes, and that healing isn't linear. Someone asked me yesterday if I still believe in love. The truth is, I do. Not the fairy tale kind, but the real kind. The kind built on honesty and respect. The kind that makes you want to be better instead of making you feel like you need to be different. For now, though, I'm learning to love myself again. And maybe that's the most important love story of all. Edit. Thank you all for the support and awards. Writing this out has been therapeutic. To those sharing similar stories in the comments, I see you, I hear you, and we're going to be okay.